Yeah, I mean, I spent the day following the protesters around the city. It started very, very peacefully indeed, outside Buchanan Galleries, at the top of Buchanan Street and the bottom of Sauchiehall Street in Glasgow. Nice protests about birds, about birds obviously dying because of the climate. It started off very peacefully, some nice displays and some singing, etc., and speakers. And I have to say it was a beautiful a colourful protest and very peaceful. It then moved from the city up Sauchiehall Street and then finally down to Renfield Street and St Vincent Street, the corner there, where police actually kind of pinned the protesters in that area. Some called it kettling, perhaps it might have been, who knows, but certainly they were surrounded and couldn't go anywhere. And one of the big sort of bugbears with regards to the protesters, and one of the complaints that they had while I was down there, was that they weren't allowed access to water or toilet facilities, which obviously is going to cause a problem and make people pretty cranky. But again, the protest, there was a few scuffles, etc. There was some people having a pop at the police as well via megaphone and confronting them face to face. 5 arrests, as you say. 2 of those were for 2 activists trying to break into the SSE building. So you can't really complain about that. Obviously, if that's going to happen, you will be arrested. But yeah, the only thing I would say yesterday, which struck a note with me, is when the protesters were kind of pinned down, hemmed down in that area at the bottom of St Vincent Street, was that it was starting to take a little bit more of a sinister turn. More and more police involved. You could see the police starting to get more and more concerned about the situation as well. And certainly much more vocal protests coming back from the protesters. Obviously it's been a long week. We've had 3-4 days of these protests. And now you can see it starting to turn. I hope I'm wrong, but I just get the feeling that things may get out of hand as we head towards the back end of this week.
Well, is that because the main leaders of COP26 have left and the protesters realise they're standing there with no one actually to protest against?
Yeah, I mean, as a part of that, of course, Joe Biden's gone. Obviously, China and Russia didn't even come at all. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's partly it. But I think it's just when you have protesters protesting all week, obviously it's tiring. You're walking around the city, people are starting to get cranky, and yesterday was the only day that I've seen that police actually took this action of surrounding the whole group, and I think they felt a bit threatened by that. And I have to say, in fairness to the protesters, some of the policing has been off the scale, really, for the amount of protesters we're talking about. I went down West End of Glasgow the other day, and I mean, there must have been 600-700 police. There was about 200 protesters. I know, police vehicles, helicopter in the sky is a little bit over the top for what you're actually dealing with in terms of numbers. But obviously the police have the strategy, they're sticking to that, they want to make sure that nothing happens. However, as I said, these are the smaller protests that have been happening so far. We move into tomorrow, another big protest tomorrow, then we've got the big one on Saturday. 100,000 people coming to Glasgow. How are they going to cope with that?